Welcome to Pathways to Partnership, the podcast powered by MoveAmerica. Here, we explore the intersection of industry, government, and academia, where collaboration sparks innovation and strengthens our nation's defense industrial base. Each episode will bring you thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and real-world success stories that showcase the pathways to building a stronger, more innovative defense industry. And now, here's your host, Rick from MoveAmerica.
Welcome back to Pathways to Partnership, the podcast where we explore the critical intersections between innovation, business, and the federal supply chain. In today's episode, we're once again joined by Earl Wyatt, Executive Director of MoveAmerica and a longtime leader in defense innovation policy. Earl brings a unique perspective from inside and outside the Pentagon, offering real-world guidance for businesses looking to break into the federal marketplace. From cooperative research agreements and pitch days to advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and the power of the Mentor-Protégé Program, this episode is packed with strategies and insights for innovators who want to make a national impact. Let's dive in. I know your experience, particularly with the defense industrial base, you've been on both sides of the equation. You've been within the Pentagon, you've been outside the Pentagon trying to help emerging technologies get to the defense industrial base or the federal supply chain, because it could be other agencies. Through all of your years of experience, along with the areas that people should be concerned about, you've also seen what approaches work when you're a company that you believe has some type of innovation that could really pay itself forward as far as getting up to the federal level or even the state or local level, but mostly the federal level is where a lot of people are concerned about these days, trying to get into federal contracting. Are there any types of strategies or approaches that you believe businesses seeking partnerships with federal agencies should adopt?
There's a couple, and it depends on where I am in terms of the maturity of my idea or my capability. The federal government is great for working with entities, but they won't ever mass produce them. So there's no threat of competition with the federal government, working with the laboratories. If I'm an early stage developer, I've got a concept that I know has merit. I'm just not exactly sure the appropriate applications, but I know that it has merit for a particular service or a particular agency. I would approach that service or agency and find out, do they have a specific lab? They have Army Research Lab, Navy Research Lab, Air Force Research Lab. If it's an agency, they may use a national lab, Oak Ridge, PNNL. I would do what I can to do a cooperative agreement with that particular laboratory so that I could begin to work with them on an emerging challenge or a challenge that they already know. Why is that important? Because in the laboratory, we know and they know what we currently have fielded. They know what the next generation is. And if you're working in a cooperative agreement with the laboratory, that laboratory wants that technology to be brought in by industry. Industry is the vehicle upon which innovation enters the weapon system. Look forward to working with industry that wants to work on their problems. If there's a service, an agency that your technology is most applicable to, then that's a good first step. I mentioned entities like DIU, the Apex Accelerator. I didn't mention two others, the AFWorks for the Air Force or Naval X. They identify challenges. If your technology has an ability to be able to address those challenges, they're a marvelous group upon which to go to highlight your concept, let them know what it is and how you believe you can achieve that. They oftentimes will hold, at least the Air Force in particular, will hold pitch days where you get an opportunity and they'll invite you based on your initial dialogue to give a pitch. They will look to put you on contract in a very short order, access to capital. Those two things immediately come to mind, in addition to the cooperative agreements where you can work with the laboratory. There are programs like the Joint Capability Technology Demonstrator Program. There are programs like the RISE program within OSD that take technology that have a prototype that can be adapted to a DoD mission identify opportunities to submit a candidate for a demonstration and get invited to a venue where you can bring your technology, your component, your system, and demonstrate it in an operational like environment. Some of the mature technologies can take advantage of that vehicle. That's why I promote the idea of using an Apex Accelerator. Part of what that tech community can do is help with where we need to go based on the maturity of your activity, whether it's associated with an early stage, working with the laboratory to formulate it, working with a NavalX or an AppWorks entity, looking at an application, the Small Business Innovative Research community or the STTR community, both the National Science Foundation as well as the Department of Defense offers opportunities for SBIRs, Small Business Innovative Research. That track has been very successful in inviting innovators, companies to present a solution to an identified challenge. They will identify challenges and create an opportunity for open submission. It's not identified as a challenge or a problem, but it's something that you may have an idea that affords the department or the federal community to get an understanding of what you can do that may be something they hadn't thought about, but didn't think that application could be employed. The SBIR activity is another one. And then there's the Mentor-Protégé Program. The Mentor-Protégé Program responds to some 13 or so defense agencies, identify challenges they have, and look for established performers, people who have done work with the Department of Defense. It could be a medium company. Again, it could be a larger company. But the idea of teaming with a protege who that medium-sized company believes or has worked with in the past that could be developed to the point of being a standalone contractor or a preferred sub to respond to defense concerns. The teaming of a mentor and a protege to address a Department of Defense challenge where they bring their technology, the mentor will help with developmental or technology transition to bring that forward so that at the end of a 1, 2, or 3-year program, that protege is capable of being a preferred sub or a standalone performer for the Department of Defense. So there's a creator, there is the X programs, there is the SBIR activities, and the Mentor-Protégé Program as pathways that have all led to success for companies wanting to do work with the federal government and in particular the Department of Defense.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Mentor-Protégé Program because that was something I wanted to ask about. I know MoveAmerica has a unique role in acting as the Mentor-Protégé Program intermediary and helping to take that program forward because if I'm correct, the Mentor-Protégé Program for 30 some years was a pilot, probably one of the longest pilots in the federal government. But just in the last 2 years, it was made into a permanent program, correct?
That's correct. The Mentor-Protégé Program has a history of providing capability to advance systems like the Joint Strike Fighter program, like the Zoom Wall Destroyer. I can't remember all of those that they have, again, using mentors, using proteges to help contribute to not only the development of systems that are going to be deployed, but developing of an industrial base so that we can go back to those same suppliers and performers for future systems. They become familiar with how the department does business, make sure that their systems are ISO certified, and in some circumstances, how to best address the longevity requirements associated with the Department of Defense. America has a role with the establishment of the Mentor-Protégé Program as a permanent program. Congress wanted to see, obviously, a more streamlined operation, obviously increased capacity. Sometimes that's a challenge when you're a service or a defense agency. Increasing capacity without increasing your manpower can be a difficult challenge. America's role to assist defense agencies is, if you will, when a defense agency has identified the concern, an area they would like to see increased competition. or they would like to make sure that there's a domestic sources of supply. They identify that particular concern or issue and offer it to the mentor-protege program so that mentors and proteges can establish a relationship. We're not Harmony, we don't do the matchmaking, but when a team comes to Move America with the intent of addressing a particular concern, or they go to the service and identify themselves, Move America will make sure they know who to work with. In most circumstances, we will help them with best to characterize what's required for them to be eligible. If they meet the requirements, that will be great. If they don't, let them know what they need to do to become eligible. When eligible, if they form the team, they can propose their solution. We act as a conduit. We don't do the evaluation, but we act as a conduit to make sure that their complete submission is provided to the federal or defense agency. The defense agency then approves, selects, or requests some modification, and then they will evaluate it. Once the government agency says this is a viable activity, the cost associated with it and the timeline is appropriate, they will direct and we will put them on subcontract and assist in managing that particular endeavor of the federal agency to ensure as many as they can afford. We'll help them with the management of them so that if an agency didn't have a program this year, but is capable, Move America will help them with that activity.
No, and that's fantastic. And I know, particularly when it comes to mentor-protege, I love the fact that you mentioned that you don't do the matchmaking, because I think that's one of the misperceptions. Less experienced contractors who want to come in as protege companies think somebody is going to be there to help match them with a mentor. And that's really not the way that it works. But there are opportunities for them to try to get in the same room.
While we're not responsible for the matchmaking or hold events where we invite established mentors and those interested in becoming proteges, then allow them to develop a relationship, talk if they want to, and if they believe that's a relationship that they would like to pursue, then they collectively will team and then come back to the department. You're right about that. On the 25th of March,
focusing on small and medium businesses, SMBs, regarding the categories of technology that you described, what national defense relevant industries and technologies are most dependent on SMBs and therefore should be priorities for either DoD or Project Spectrum or the Office of Small Business Programs?
I think associated with advanced manufacturing, computer generated manufacturing, 3D printing in some circumstances, small businesses have an opportunity to play a key role. Many major weapon systems have small business requirements in order to satisfy their government requirements, which say we have to go to a small business. If you can help with the manufacturing of components, that helps. Obviously, we're not looking for small businesses to do a major wing, but it helps. If we're involved with robotics, sensing, processing, and actuating, I think that helps. Autonomous systems, cybersecurity comes to mind, where small businesses have an opportunity to participate, where you're less likely to acquire a major performer, or if I'm a major performer, where would I go that I can allocate my weapon system to components that I can get from small business industry? That's true. In the cyber and the hypersonics arena, very challenging. You highlighted again the frictional effects. Metals become liquids in those circumstances, and how do I dissipate heat? Advanced materials helps more in the early stages, or basically if you have an ability to work with certain materials that have increased temperature capacities, that helps a lot. Communications and integrations of communications, those are areas that small businesses can participate. High schools are launching microsets, so small businesses can be a major contributor in those areas. If I think advanced manufacturing, I think of some autonomous systems. Cyber is going to be required in everything we do. We need to protect the networks and confirm the integrity of the information that flows through our networks. And so I think if you're a small business and you have the ability to provide that, and remember, you can provide that as a small business to other small businesses that are looking to participate in those environments that can't necessarily afford some of the more exotic solutions, but they need an effective and a tailored solution to meet their needs. Those immediately come to mind, but I'm sure if we got a chance to think a little bit more, we could probably come up with a few more options.
And I think those are definitely a great start and give a great amount of information. So there is one question that I want to ask you, because when you and I were preparing for this, this is something that I'm dying to hear your answer for. You've talked about innovation and given great examples about what is innovation, innovative technologies. If you're a company that is not experienced with being part of the defense supply chain or federal procurement, what would you say isn't innovation, or what is misperceived as innovation that really isn't innovative, or even what could inhibit innovation?
When to say that something is not innovative, it could be, but it may not be relevant to a particular customer base. So to them, they would say it's not innovative. It may be a new way of doing something that currently exists, but has no application to that particular arena. The most important thing is to be relevant. So you have to determine who could benefit most from it or who could be hurt most by not having access to it. That becomes critical. If I'm developing a counter to a potential weapon of mass destruction, I would like to say, okay, if I can produce this particular threat, who would I go to? There is the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. There is an entity within the federal government that would be somebody I should give a call to. Let's say I have something that can be used across multiple agencies. So who do I go to first? Do I go to the Department of Agriculture first? I'm not specifically concerned about agriculture, but I know they could benefit from what's taking place. Who do I go to that would need my activity most, and where my competition may not be as keen? When I was in the department, my rule was find out what was considered to be a significant or higher risk where the current approach was inadequate. So therefore, if I produced something, I avoided what was called the Valley of Death. The Valley of Death is identified as an area where in the development of systems, it's a good system, but it isn't the system that the department feels based on integration, based on cost, based on reliability, that they would like to put above other systems. Therefore, I went to one where if I produced anything, it was better than what they currently had, and they needed something yesterday. So you have to be relevant first. Then the next thing is, where can I be most effective? So they need it, it's relevant to their role, but if I'm looking at boiling the ocean, that's unrealistic. What part of the ocean can I be most effective? Then that's where I want to address. This is the problem set for your particular agency. This is the challenge that I would like to take on, and I want to demonstrate for you my ability to make that happen. If I'm a new person coming in and I want to do something that either currently exists more cost effectively, one form of innovation, or do something that doesn't exist at all, that's part of innovation / invention. The idea that I'm doing something that hasn't been done before or more cost effectively. Will you, one, benefit most by it, or two, be hurt most by not participating? That's who I want to talk to first. And then with that, what part of that problem set can I be most effective first to make that happen? A lot of times we think that our best place is to go to somebody who's developing the next generation system. It might be go to the depot that's providing support for a legacy system, because your technology, your innovation may be more cost effective than what they're buying today. They can no longer get the manufacturer that's producing that activity, and you may put yourself in the best position to be that next level supplier. That would be going through my mind.
Earl, just one last opportunity. If there are any takeaways you would like someone to have from this chat, say one or two, what would those be?
The services want innovation. They are limited in dollars and sometimes in terms of how they can get access to you. By using the Apex accelerators, recognizing that every service has an Office of Small Business Programs, finding out who that happens to be in their org chart, by working with the Department of Defense, OSD, and Office of Small Business Programs, identifying those offices that are there specifically to work with small businesses. I would also say that every major contractor actually have a small business liaison office. That's another source. But recognize that you want to produce something that other people want to buy, and you have to who are the buyers or who are setting requirements for that. If it's an Apex accelerator, if it's a rapid innovation accelerator, if it's an Office of Small Business Programs for a specific service or the department, those are good places to start.
That wraps up another episode of Pathways to Partnership. A huge thanks to Earl Wyatt for sharing his deep expertise and tactical advice. Whether you're working on next-gen materials, cybersecurity, or AI applications, one thing is clear: innovation alone isn't enough. Relevance, readiness, and relationship building are what get you through the door. For more episodes and updates, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and visit MoveAmerica's website. And don't forget to subscribe to Pathways to Partnership on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep building, keep innovating, and keep pushing forward.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily represent the views or positions of MoveAmerica or its affiliates. Always consult with a qualified professional for advice specific to your circumstances. For more information about MoveAmerica and our mission to strengthen the defense industrial base through innovation and collaboration, visit us at www.moveamerica.org. Thank you for tuning in to Pathways to Partnership, powered by MoveAmerica. Until next time, stay inspired, stay innovative, and we'll speak with you soon.